Dr. Quinn once brought hope to millions, yet the real lives of its stars have been marked by tragedy, fading fame, and the cruel passage of time. The actors who once defined strength, beauty, and innocence now face illness, loss, and old age. What happened to them will break your heart. Jane Seymour as Dr. Michaela Dr. Mike Quinn. Jane Seymour, born Joyce Penelope Wilhelmina Frankenberg on February 15, 1951, in Uxbridge, Middlesex, England, was 42 years old when she stepped into the iconic role of Dr. Michaela Dr. Mike Quinn in 1993. As the refined Boston physician who defied prejudice on the American frontier, Seymour became the emotional center of Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, embodying grace, resilience, and quiet determination. But her life behind the scenes was far more complex. By the time she joined the series, Seymour had already weathered multiple divorces, career setbacks, and periods of financial strain, including a highly publicized bankruptcy caused by a failed real estate investment. The pressures of Hollywood did not spare her. Despite early fame as a Bond girl in Live and Let Die, she often faced the unforgiving reality of aging in an industry that idolizes youth. Yet she rebuilt herself repeatedly, guided by discipline and an almost unwavering work ethic. Now, in 2026, at age 73, Jane Seymour continues to work in film and television, though at a gentler pace as time inevitably softens her once unstoppable energy. Joe Lando as Byron Sully. Joe Lando was born December 9, 1961, in Prairie View, Illinois, was just 31 years old when he took on the role of Byron Sully, the rugged, soft-spoken frontiersman who became Dr. Mike's steadfast partner in Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. With his long hair, piercing intensity, and quiet moral strength, Lando created one of television's most enduring romantic heroes. At the height of the show's fame, he battled creative tensions, including a well-known rift with Jane Seymour that lasted for years. Hollywood's ruthless typecasting worked against him. Despite his talent, he struggled to escape the shadow of Sully, watching promising roles slip away as the industry boxed him into the same frontier hero mold. Fame brought attention, but not the thriving career many expected. In 2026, at age 63, Joe Lando lives a quieter life, choosing family and privacy over the spotlight. He still appears at fan events and reunions, where audiences greet him with the same affection they held 3 decades ago. Chad Allen as Matthew Cooper. Chad Allen, born June 5, 1974, in Cerritos, California, was only 19 years old when he took on the role of Matthew Cooper, the earnest and soft-spoken eldest Cooper child in Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. As the hard-working young man who struggled to define his place in a changing world, Matthew became one of the series' emotional anchors. But behind the scenes, Allen's coming-of-age story was far more painful. At just 16, before Dr. Quinn aired, he was outed by a tabloid without his consent, a violation that devastated his personal life and permanently altered his career trajectory. Hollywood's reaction was brutal. Roles disappeared, opportunities dried up, and Allen faced discrimination at a time when the industry offered little support for openly gay actors. The pressure fueled years of emotional struggle and a long fight for self-acceptance, even as his talent continued to shine on screen. Now, in 2026, at age 51, Chad Allen has retired from acting entirely. He trained as a clinical psychologist and now works in mental health and advocacy, using his own scars to help others heal. Barbara Babcock as Dorothy Jennings. Barbara Babcock was born February 27, 1937, in Fort Riley, Kansas, was 56 years old when she joined Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, as Dorothy Jennings, the spirited widow, newspaper editor, and one of Dr. Mike's closest confidants. Warm, insightful, and unafraid to challenge the world around her, Dorothy embodied the voice of change in Colorado Springs. Behind the scenes, however, Babcock's life carried its own hardships. A respected actress long before Dr. Quinn, she had already won an Emmy and earned acclaim for her versatility, yet she constantly battled the industry's ageism, watching roles for women diminish as she grew older. In later years, she faced an even greater struggle, a debilitating neurological disease that gradually limited her mobility and ultimately forced her to step away from acting altogether. The woman who once commanded the screen with elegance and confidence was forced into a quieter, more fragile life. At age 88, Barbara Babcock lives far from Hollywood's demands, her public appearances rare due to declining health in 2026. Time may have aged her, but her impact on Dr. Quinn endures with a quiet, unforgettable grace. Orson Bean as Lauren Bray. Born July 22, 1928, in Burlington, Vermont, Orson Bean was 65 years old when he stepped into the role of Lauren Bray, the sharp-tongued general store owner whose stubbornness and hidden tenderness made him one of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman's most memorable supporting characters. Beneath his gruff exterior, Lauren carried layers of regret, loneliness, and unexpected wisdom, qualities that Bean portrayed with effortless charm. Behind the camera, Bean's life was equally dramatic. A veteran of stage, film, and television, he had survived the political blacklisting of the 1950s, years of personal turmoil, and the tragic loss of his daughter. His humor and resilience became defining traits, but age eventually brought its own battles. Even so, Bean remained active longer than most of his peers, performing well into his late 80s with the same spark that had carried him through decades of reinvention. That is why his death came as such a devastating shock. On February 7, 2020, at age 91, Orson Bean was killed in a tragic traffic accident in Los Angeles, a sudden, heartbreaking end to a life filled with creativity and grit. Sean Tuvey as Brian Cooper. Sean Tuvey, born March 1, 1983, in Lincoln, Nebraska, was only 10 years old when he began portraying Brian Cooper, the youngest member of the Cooper family in Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. With his wide-eyed innocence and heartfelt sincerity, Brian became the emotional core of the series, a boy shaped by loss, hope, and the healing presence of Dr. Mike. But the sweetness fans saw on screen didn't translate into a sustained acting career. Like many child stars, Tuvey struggled to navigate Hollywood after the show ended. Scripts grew scarce, pressure mounted, and he found himself drifting away from an industry that no longer knew what to do with him. Instead of chasing fame, he chose a quieter path, prioritizing education, family, and humanitarian work over the spotlight that once embraced him. Today, at age 42, Sean Tuvey lives far from Hollywood's noise, dedicating much of his time to charitable causes and youth-focused organizations. Henry G. Sanders as Robert E. Born August 18, 1942 in Houston, Texas, Henry G. Sanders was 51 years old when he took on the role of Robert E., the skilled blacksmith whose quiet dignity and strength became essential to the heart of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. As one of the few black characters depicted in a 19th-century frontier town, Robert E.'s story carried emotional and historical weight, shaped by survival, resilience, and the search for belonging in a world that often pushed him aside. Behind the scenes, Sanders' own journey echoed some of the hardships faced by his character. Before Dr. Quinn, he battled years of limited opportunities in an industry that offered few meaningful roles to black actors. He worked through financial instability, long stretches between jobs, and the constant frustration of being typecast. Yet his persistence paid off. Robert E. became one of the most respected portrayals of a black man in the 1990s television, grounded in humanity rather than stereotype. Now in 2026, at age 83, Henry G. Sanders continues to act occasionally, though age has slowed his pace and his public appearances have grown rare. Jeffrey Lower as Reverend Timothy Johnson. Jeffrey Lower was born March 19, 1963, in Wantage, New Jersey. He was 30 years old when he joined Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, as Reverend Timothy Johnson, the kind-hearted minister whose gentle wisdom guided the people of Colorado Springs. As a compassionate spiritual leader, often caught between faith, doubt, and the hardships of frontier life, the Reverend brought emotional grounding to the series. But Lower's life after the show took a quieter, less glamorous turn. Despite early promise in Hollywood, he struggled against the industry's unpredictability, finding fewer roles than expected once Dr. Quinn ended. He moved between acting jobs, home renovation work, and sporadic TV appearances, navigating a career that never regained the momentum of his 1990s peak. It was not scandal or downfall, just the slow fading common to many actors who once held the spotlight and then watched it drift away. In 2026, at age 62, Jeffrey Lower lives a private, grounded life, dividing his time between small creative projects and local work far from Hollywood's glare. Frank Collison as Horace Bing. Frank Collison, born February 14, 1950, in Evanston, Illinois, was 43 years old when he stepped into the role of Horace Bing, the awkward yet tender-hearted telegraph operator of Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. With his nervous smiles, gentle stammer, and earnest devotion to Myra, Horace became one of the show's most endearing and quietly tragic figures. Although he appeared in multiple films and television series before and after Dr. Quinn, steady fame always seemed just out of reach. He faced the familiar struggles of typecasting and financial instability, taking on a wide range of roles to support his family. The hustle was constant, and the pressure of sustaining a career in an unforgiving industry weighed heavily with age. Yet Collison remained dedicated to his craft, moving between acting, theater, and teaching, with the resilience of a true character actor. Now, in 2026, at age 75, Frank Collison continues to work occasionally, but lives a slower, more private life. His public appearances are rare, and his health, though not publicly disclosed, shows the natural toll of time. Erica Flores as Colleen Cooper. Erica Flores, born November 2, 1979, in Grass Valley, California, was just 13 years old when she originated the role of Colleen Cooper, Dr. Mike's intelligent, kind-hearted eldest daughter, in Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. As Colleen, she brought a mixture of innocence, curiosity, and emotional maturity that instantly connected with audiences. Yet behind the scenes, Flores's journey was shaped by real-life hardship. At the height of her rising fame, with storylines expanding and fans embracing her character, she made the difficult decision to leave the series after season 3. The reason was heartbreaking. Her mother had become seriously ill, and Flores chose family over stardom. Hollywood rarely rewards such choices. Acting opportunities faded, and the momentum she had built as a young star was abruptly lost. Though she appeared in a few later projects, her career never regained its early visibility. Now, in 2026, at age 45, Erica Flores lives a quiet, private life far from the pressures of the entertainment industry. She has avoided the spotlight entirely, and little is publicly known about her current pursuits, by her own choice. Larry Sellers as Cloud Dancing. Larry Sellers, born October 2, 1949, in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, was 44 years old when he joined Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, as Cloud Dancing, the wise and compassionate Cheyenne medicine man whose friendship with Sully and guidance to Dr. Mike brought spiritual depth to the series. Beyond acting, Sellers' life was dedicated to preserving and teaching Native American history and traditions. A respected historian, educator, and ceremonial leader, he worked tirelessly to ensure that indigenous stories were portrayed truthfully in Hollywood, an uphill battle in an industry long guilty of misrepresentation. His presence on Dr. Quinn was groundbreaking, offering representation that was rare and deeply needed in the 1990s television. Larry Sellers passed away on December 9, 2021, at the age of 72, leaving behind a community of admirers, students, and fellow actors who cherished him. In 2025, his legacy stands tall, a performer who brought wisdom to the screen, a teacher who kept traditions alive, and a man whose gentle strength helped shape the soul of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. More than 3 decades have passed, and the faces who made the magic of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, are now older, dead, or gone from Hollywood. But each has left a piece of themselves in the hearts of millions of viewers. Who do you miss the most? Leave a comment. And stay tuned for more touching then and now stories.